I'll just add my own little story here, which is that I actually had the pleasure to be involved with the National Center since its founding. And even before there was this specific initiative, and just from last year around community foundations, we have always been able to find value as we've built out our Center for Family Philanthropy, because just like Peter said, so much of what happens with families or small family foundations, the materials, the ideas are completely applicable for the donors that we work with. So there's always been that great transference of knowledge, even if we weren't specifically talking about community foundations. And I think this deeper piece now that we're doing, where we're having sort of this exchange, this learning exchange of ourselves, but within the National Center on Family Philanthropy, is such an incredible resource, because we're pulling down on all the knowledge that exists around family philanthropy, and then having the ability, if we can get a really good, robust group of community foundations to be part of the learning exchange, then we really are able to exchange how does it exactly play out within the community foundation model. So I just think we're on to the next level of something that has always been a resource, but now we're taking it to a new level. So now I'd like to welcome Tony Macklin, who's our new program manager, to take the floor and look ahead to 2016. And I'm so glad you're with us, Tony, and I'm really excited about working with you.
Thank you very much. If we can go to the next slide, Jason. So we're looking ahead at 2016 plans and activities. Here's what we have mapped out so far. So folks who become members of the network will get a chance to get access to a bunch of new services on top of the National Center's other content, which we'll also describe. Liz mentioned earlier the Spark sessions. This Spark session is open to the whole field. The next 4 are going to be open for our subscriber members. And so we'll have one that helps people think about the on-ramps to developing their family philanthropy services, understanding their organizational readiness to help families engage with philanthropy in a lot of different ways. The second one will be really providing advice on staffing structures and the skill sets that staff members need, their individual characteristics and traits you might want to look for when you're hiring new staff, those kinds of qualifications of service and advisory functionality, and then what are professional development pathways that'll be out there so that staff can build their skill sets either through the National Center or through other partner organizations. And many of you know some of those, like the CAP program and 2164 and others. The third one will be about helping donors as they want to go beyond grant making to nonprofits. So how do donors engage in advocacy and using their connections and community leadership skills? How do they use their investments for good? How do they want to influence change beyond their nonprofit grantees? And so we'll find some great stories about how donors have really turned loose in their communities and made a big difference. And then the last one will really be diving into that role that community foundation staff members can play as part of a high net worth donors larger advisory team. What does it take to be a good member of a team? What's it take when you need to step into the facilitator role? What can a community foundation do if the team goes awry and needs to be knit back together? And some of us who are on the call or listening in have probably been through that before. And so we'll walk through that through so you know how to work with a donor and feel like they have a cohesive strategy amongst their estate planning attorneys and accountants and philanthropic advisors or everybody else. That's what the Spark sessions we have planned so far. Jason, if you can hit the next slide. Thank you. We are going to be at the AdNet conference. So for those of you who are attending AdNet, we will be there doing at least one session during the conference, and we will probably do a conference on Sunday evening. We're still working out logistics with AdNet's logistics team on sort of the timing and places and everything, so stay tuned. There'll be something in the next 2 or 3 weeks on that. We'll be doing a session that helps people on-ramp to family philanthropy, and we're going to be spending some time with you all as we prototype new materials and resources to make sure they really hit what you need. So we will ply you with some drinks and food and get your reactions to some of those ideas. A few years ago, almost a decade ago, Ekstrom and Associates had created a readiness assessment tool. It was a paper tool where a community foundation could take a self-survey and figure out what's their organizational culture look like for family philanthropy services, what are their skill sets look like, how core is it to their business mission and business model, for those of you who've been going through business modeling over the past decade or so, what kinds of goals and expectations do they have, what kinds of marketing do they need to be doing. We're going to be updating that tool and putting it online so folks can get access to it and think through with their staff and board members how fast they want to dive in and how ready they are to dive in and the resources they might need to dive in next. Liz and others have mentioned the Knowledge Center. We'll go into that in a couple seconds. We're going to be doing a few community foundation focused materials. You've probably seen other things out there that are certainly donor centered and certainly family philanthropy centered, and we'll try to build up some more tools and templates and resources for you all as you're staffing family philanthropy services. All that is going to get added up into some kind of family philanthropy playbook. That's our interim term for the moment. We're still designing what that might look like, but essentially it'll be sort of a one-stop shop for community foundation staff members as they're trying to figure out what do they need to do in terms of family philanthropy, what are the resources, especially for small and mid-sized community foundations, how can they navigate the field without having staff internally. And then we'll probably have more things that'll come out from your conversations with us, both at AdNet and following that. Jason, next slide. So the Knowledge Center, if you've not been on the National Center for Family Philanthropy's website, is an incredible resource. I was at a community foundation and then ran a family foundation for 4 years, and it was my constant guide to all of the little things that happen behind the scenes as you're trying to figure out governance policies and grant-making strategies and what happens when one brother doesn't like the other brother, and all that kind of guidance is locked up in the Knowledge Center, provided by the experts in the field and your peers across the field. It's articles and case studies, example tools, issue briefs, recordings and materials from past webinars. So there's 2,000 plus materials in there and probably more growing every week, and it's a great resource. A good chunk of them, like are shown on this slide, are really helpful to staff members, whether they're at a family foundation or at a community foundation working with donor advised funds or some combination. Next slide, Jason. And then a chunk of them are available directly to donors and families, so they're meant for the families to talk about amongst themselves or for them to help solve their own problems. For some of the members who are members of this community foundation network, they're actually co-branding the Knowledge Center to their donors. So you have an example there of Atlanta's co-branding of all that knowledge, so the donors will log into their website, see that with their logo on it, and get access to whatever they want to search for, governance structures, how do you get your kids engaged, all those kind of great stories and questions that donors ask. Members of the Learning Network can co-brand those, and we can help you out on that if you have questions about it when you are members. Next slide, please. So what is this subscription thing and what benefits do you get out of it? It's a big question, right? A few of these Knowledge Center resources are available to you and the rest of the public in free access mode. Some of the newsletter content and other things, anybody can find those things. As with any organization, a bunch of the content is for the subscribers to the National Center for Family Philanthropy. And we have a couple of subscription rates. There are $2,500 a year gives you access to all of the Knowledge Center. The National Center runs monthly programs that are available to all kinds of family philanthropists, whether they're working from their home, whether they're working through a private foundation, whether they're working for a community foundation or through some other entity, and would give you direct line support to the NCFP staff to help you do problem solving along the way. And then there's an enhanced subscriber pro service that allows you to co-brand the web portal and gives you enhanced access to all those resources. If you can click one time, Jason. We are running an introductory offer. So I feel like I'm a car salesman right now. Now, buy now. And for your first year offer, if you haven't been a member of the network or the National Center, we've discounted that full pro rate to $1,500 a year. So it's a great way to jump in and see what all this can do for you and use the National Center for Family Philanthropy and your network of peers, this Community Foundation Network, as an auxiliary donor services or auxiliary family philanthropy services member to you, much cheaper than hiring someone. Next slide, please. On top of all of the normal suite of National Center for Family Philanthropy services that are available to the world, we have all of these new content pieces that we talked about earlier. The playbook that we talked about that'll be available to community foundations will be available in sort of a light version for free just so the field can get started. The organizational self-readiness and assessment tool will be available. And then there's these 4 Spark sessions that we talked about earlier that'll be available, plus a bunch of other content that gets built out of what people learn of those. We'll have case studies from your peers on best practices. We'll have the in-person gathering, AdNet. We may do one other one sometime in the next 12 to 15 months, plus a virtual peer learning community. And then somebody had asked in the Q&A section already, we've mentioned the National Center for Family Philanthropy has run 2 different family philanthropy forums. The next one will be in 2017. We're skipping a year. Don't have the date set yet. We'll let you know as soon as we have that locked in. And then on the Subscriber Pro basis, it's all of that information for network subscribers, plus all of that you can push out easily to your donors and adapt and rearrange the tool. So if you see something you like, you can co-brand it and stick your logo on it, stick it in your newsletter, or stick it in your professional advisor toolkit, whatever you need to do. So it really gives you a bunch of content ready to go. You don't have to create it from scratch. And again, a click. And reminder, it's on sale right now, $1,500 for first-year subscribers.